If you find yourself overthinking or worrying about money, this video is not about stopping those thoughts. It is about letting them wander somewhere calmer, somewhere more hopeful. You can listen to this while taking a quiet walk, while sitting somewhere peaceful, or simply as a few calm minutes in your day. What if thinking about money is not only worry? What if it is curiosity? What if your mind is simply trying to understand how life works, how security works, how freedom works? And here is something interesting. What if those thoughts are actually the beginning of something useful? Imagine this for a moment. What if one day money stops feeling like pressure and starts feeling like structure? Not something chaotic, not something scary, but something organized, something you understand. Imagine opening your banking app one quiet morning. The screen feels calm, no confusion, no stress, just clarity. One place for everyday life. Bills, groceries, ordinary things. Another place that quietly holds safety. Savings that say, you are okay. You have time. And somewhere else, money that is slowly growing, participating in the world. Because when you really think about it, money is never completely still. It moves. It builds companies. It builds cities. It builds technologies that did not exist a few years ago, and investing is simply owning a small piece of a world that keeps building. Then another thought appears. What if managing money well eventually means you do not manage everything alone? Imagine having someone whose job is simply to keep things clear. An accountant who turns numbers into order. Someone who quietly makes sure everything stays simple, legal, organized, calm. And maybe later, someone who understands the bigger picture, a financial advisor, someone who helps answer questions like, what should stay safe? What should grow? Which risks are worth taking? And which risks are not? Then another practical thought appears. How would you pay someone like that? A salary, a percentage, a monthly fee, probably enough that they can live well too. Because if someone helps protect your stability, they should feel stable as well. And suddenly wealth begins to look different. Not luxury, structure, systems, clarity. Then the mind drifts somewhere else. What if money is not only about growth? What if it is also about protecting time? Because when money becomes stable, something interesting happens. Time becomes more valuable. Imagine waking up without dozens of small financial worries, no constant calculations, no quiet tension in the background. Instead, your systems are running. Bills handled, savings growing, investments working quietly. And your mind has space again. Space to think, space to create, space to imagine the future. Then another question appears. If money becomes calm, what would you actually do with it? Because many people discover something surprising. More things do not automatically create more happiness. So the question becomes deeper. What actually creates meaning? Maybe freedom. Freedom to choose how you spend your time. Maybe experiences, travel, learning, moments that expand your life. Or maybe helping other people move forward. Imagine funding someone's education, a scholarship, books, school supplies, one opportunity at exactly the right moment. Because sometimes one small opening changes an entire life. Or imagine supporting someone who is rebuilding their life, someone learning a skill, starting a business, creating independence. Because sometimes money becomes a bridge from one life into another. Then the mind wanders again. What about animals, shelters, rescues, places where safety suddenly appears for a creature that did not have it before? Because suffering that can be reduced becomes harder to ignore when you have the means. Then another practical thought arrives. What if generosity is not random? What if it is structured? Imagine a system where a small percentage of everything you earn quietly helps others. Every month, automatically. No debate, no hesitation, just part of the system. Because generosity can also be organized. Then the thought expands again. Imagine becoming someone who creates stability for other people too. Hiring someone, giving them a fair salary, creating a job that helps their life become calmer. Because stability is one of the most powerful things money can create. And suddenly wealth becomes something different. Not just numbers, impact. Because money at its best is simply a tool for calm, a tool for freedom, a tool for building something that lasts longer than you. Now imagine something else, a future version of you looking back at this exact moment, seeing the questions you had, the curiosity, the wondering, and smiling slightly. Because those thoughts about money were not signs of fear. They were signs that your mind was trying to understand something important. How to build stability, how to create freedom, how to use resources wisely. Because the people who eventually manage money will often start the same way. Thinking about it, questioning it, exploring it, slowly learning the patterns, and those patterns become systems. Systems become stability, and stability becomes peace. So if your mind is going to think about money anyway, sometimes let it wander here, to structure, to possibility, to generosity, to the quiet idea that one day money may simply become something you understand, something you manage calmly, something that supports your life instead of worrying it, because your financial story is still unfolding, and somewhere ahead there may be a version of you who understands money calmly, uses it wisely, and living a life where money quietly supports everything else. Not something you chase, not something that creates worry, but something that simply works in the background of your life, supporting your time, supporting your choices, supporting the things that truly matter to you. And maybe that journey does not begin with perfect answers. Maybe it simply begins with a curious mind, a mind that asks questions, a mind that keeps exploring. Because sometimes thinking deeply about money is not a problem to solve. It is simply the beginning of understanding it.